All right, Zion's daughter. Okay. We are live on Instagram. Greetings, everyone. Aziza Sacred Wellspring of Aziza's Creator Studio and Sacred Sister Soul Talks TV have a beautiful, beautiful show for you this evening. I have a colleague, Zion's daughter, here, and we are going to talk about mother's sons. Recently in Barbados, there have been lots and lots of killings involving young men, I should say. And it's a cause for concern because it's like a 2-week stretch and every day was 1 or 2 people being gunned down. So I have my friend Zion's daughter on my laptop and I'm recording so that you guys on Instagram can benefit from this discussion. So Zion's daughter, introduce yourself to the people on Instagram as well as YouTube and Facebook. Can you hear me, Queen?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you, Zion's daughter. Introduce yourself to the people on Instagram and Facebook.
Certainly. Well, good afternoon or good evening to everyone. I am Zion's daughter, and some people may be wondering how I got that name, but I've always been attracted to the name and for years. So it's nothing but a new thing. When I looked at what Zion is, there is no one particular origin of the name, but it is a place of hope. And it is believed to be in David's temple. So I just kind of latched onto it in addition to the representation of what Zion means holistically. I kind of hold on to that name. Apart from that, I am a mother. I am someone who's interested in what's happening in Barbados, what's happening spiritually to all of us. And I've connected with my dear, dear friend, and she likes my insight. I am a little humbled by that, but I wanted to just sit and chat with her, and wherever the chat leads, let's just take it. And
that's right. I was just explaining to the guests. I was just explaining to our viewers that recently in Barbados, there have been a rapid increase in murders and mostly young men, I should say, or all men have been killed. And I know in this day and age, we're talking about a new earth. How does the two correlate? Because we're moving towards a new earth, but then we have all of this negativity happening. What insight do you have for us in terms of how we move forward as a nation and the people?
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, there are two trains of thoughts. Most people want to put measures in place to counteract what is now a problem, while some people would have made recommendations from the womb, what should happen. But let's just take a journey back before we come forward. Mm-hmm. Primarily men were targeted in the slave trade. And I know some people roll their eyes when they say that, but a lot of our problems as Black people primarily has its genesis in the slave trade and the ensuing colonization idealisms, trains of thoughts, and gatekeeping of colonialistic ways, as opposed to what our forefathers may have ventured as being the right way to raise a child. What I see in Barbados as a mother, and even before I became a mother, I was an aunt, I saw that our boys were being treated with a casualness of being raised to the point of letting go too early, not giving enough love, or not given the encouragement that they need. I saw that there are more and more programs for girls without enveloping and shaping what boys need. When I became a mother of a boy, just shopping for him, they're not even included in many stores. Programs may seem as if they are boy oriented or male oriented, but the truth is, it may be that just traditionally more boys are attracted to that particular thing than girls. And it's kind of troubling if you had to speak to someone who's way more professional than I would ever be in the area of wayward youth, children who are having a tough time. I am positive that they will tell you that the genesis of many of the young men's problem is home, or lack thereof, or lack of mothering, or lack of fathering. And that does not always mean the lack of a presence of a parent, but the lack of any semblance of what love is toward them as a boy.
Is it that with the introduction of internet and readily available programs that people are viewing, is that possible that it could have had an effect? When I was growing up, we played cowboys and Indians, pardon the pun, in cowboys and Indians, kung fu fighting, all of that. We had pictures like Cannon, where there were guns and what's not. But back then, nobody was interested in picking up a gun. We just pretended, you know what I mean? So is it a change in society, or is it that we so want to keep up with everything? We want to be the next sensation on social media that we've lost touch with our boys. We put more pressure on ourselves to look out for the girls, but we figure the boys can take care of themselves. Is that the reality of the situation?
Unfortunately, there is no one answer, but there are plethora of things that if you had to look into them. Now, some people would say, oh, I don't know anything, but let's look holistically at our society where young men are concerned. How many of our young men can openly say, my mother loves me? How many of our young men can openly say, my father loves me? There is someone who loves me enough that I can keep my head on. There's someone who cares about me enough that I don't have to worry about being hungry. What about young men who are in homes and they age out the system? They don't have anyone to go to. Who's going to take care of them? They have to find their way. There is no one there. You may have agencies, but an agency is not the same as one-on-one love. Perhaps I'm having fairy tale notions of what can be solutions, but I see this daily with our young men, how they are invalidated as having emotion, invalidated as wanting to have more in their life than just what they're experiencing if it is bad, invalidated that they can be good fathers, invalidated that they can be decent human beings. So if you're going to have the conception of all these problems, then the birth after the conception is a problem that you are not just coping with. You don't want to acknowledge. You haven't got a solution. And this is where the movement of mothers loving their sons can step in as you have introduced it. And I'm sure you will talk more of it. And I love the idea because it tells you, yes, we know that the men need fathers. We know that. But boys need their mothers. And it's not about pampering. It is showing our young men that they are loved,
I
not
agree.
allowed to do as you like, but showing you love.
You know, growing up, I remembered one time, a little story here. One time I was going to school and this other lady said something to me, and I always had a quick mouth about me. And I
Mm-hmm.
tell her, I think I said something to her about shite or something like that. And that evening, we didn't have access to all these phones and cell phones back then. But I remember the evening time I got home, as soon as I came to the door, my mother started to beat me, literally. And I was like, because I forgot I told off the old lady. But apparently the old lady found where my mother, who she knew who my mother was, and she told her what I had said to her. My mother didn't ask a question. She just started giving me lashes. But back then it
Mm-hmm.
was the village. I say that to say it was the village that raised the children. We would, when we came into somebody's presence, it was good morning. We did not pass an elderly person or someone older than us without speaking. I find that in this society, in this age, that doesn't even happen anymore. When I lived in the US, when the parents bring the children, as a teacher, the parents bring the children to school, the parents didn't even speak. And the children would come in and walk past you like you didn't even exist. And my first thing was, excuse me, what is the first thing you say? Morning, Miss Abby. I said, well, there you go. And that's something that we have to teach these children these days because they will walk past you. And I find adults do it too. Black folk didn't used to do it. I know people from Louisiana, when I lived in Texas, when they see you, the first thing they do, they speak. But then I found some of us started adopting that attitude, like the Caucasian race, we started adopting that attitude of not speaking to each other as though it was cool. So we've adopted a behavior that doesn't say who we are, but is that symptomatic of society of adopting another culture? I mean, you're enslaved um, in another people's way of doing things. Is that we have adopted another person's culture and have thrown us to the side, thrown us by the wayside? How do we now get that back? How do we now reinstill that in our youth? Because we're losing them by the wayside as we move into this new age, this age of Aquarius.
Well, well, Aziza, the how should I put this? Our youth sees our hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
They see us saying things like what you just said, or the young people should speak. But then they also see us on social media, the things that we say, the way we behave, the things that we uphold as being right or wrong. And the youth of today will are losing respect for Gen Xers or Gen Zers. They are losing that respect because of the blatant hypocrisy on our part.
Yes.
When we were growing up, and I am of that same delicate age as you, when we were growing up, it was expected of the youth to speak to the elders. But I want to put it to people that if adults had respect for children as well, children would feel comfortable in the space of adults and be able to emulate or adopt what those same adults are doing. Additionally, a lot of our homes, unfortunately, this is not anything that I'm making up. These are facts, these are statistics that can be easily researched. A lot of our homes are broken. And
Yes.
broken isn't always that mother and father are not together. It is
Mm-hmm.
broken because a lot of us, a lot, too many homes have abuse in it. Too many homes have sexual abuse. Too many homes
Yes.
have domestic abuse. Just
Yes.
look at the beginning of the pandemic, where many social agencies were up in arms with the
Mm-hmm.
increase of abuse cases. Now, let's just look at the last 2 years because that's when our world started to reset.
Mm.
if those children endured abuse in the last 2 years, those children are going to grow up. Those are children who will have no mercy on us. Because while many people, and I'm asking the Creator to guide me as I say this, while many people may be upset with the government's position, the child that you are abusing is looking on at you and wondering, why aren't you not abusing me? And it's that level of hypocrisy that our children are watching, my sister, and are telling us, and they're going to rebel. Even more old people will be in the hospital abandoned. Even more children might seek revenge. We
God
cannot,
forbid.
There is, the last 2 years, statistically, has so many data with what went wrong with society that only those who do not want to see it will do nothing about it. While many people are focusing on COVID and so on, the social upheaval and disarray that has been caused by people not having jobs, coming home at a curfew hour to a wrecked house, makes a terrible stew for people to chew on, and children bear the brunt of our folly during these last 2 years.
Yes, this has been a hard 2 years for people. People call it cabin fever, but what the 2 years have also done is, I think, exposed a lot that our people weren't exposed to. All they had was social media that they can jump on. So this was the perfect storm where people now gather information and learned a lot about themselves and about their race. A good friend of mine, Rod Hayes, always says, all skin folk isn't kin folk. And people have learned a lot about themselves, but in learning a lot about themselves, it's also made them look at how they grew up as well, and recognize that how they grew up worked. We went away from what worked to now nothing that worked. So everybody wants to get back to what works. So I always say, take the best is Sankofa, return and get them, go back to what worked for us and pull the best of it and now build a society. I'm always advocating about building community, and we can't have a community without our men. We need them. But here in the Caribbean lately, they're being gunned down. This is a trend that we will see happening in America, and now it is finding itself here more and more the last couple of weeks. Some people say this is sacrificial time. I don't care about all of that. All I know is these are young men that are losing their lives stupidly, and they're so brazen with it. They don't care about cameras. They don't care. It's like, it's not even a gangster life, because that's not how a gangster is. They just go up and they shoot, and it's like, a federation. They really don't care. They really don't care about loss of life. And these are mothers who are losing their sons in both ways, not just those who are dying, but those who are doing the shooting. These are mothers who are losing their sons. It's almost like there's no care chip in them. Because when you shoot that person, they're not going to get up and walk away. And I don't think they realize that. Everybody wants to be the hardest one. And that makes absolutely no sense. This is not a movie. And they're behaving as though it's a movie. We're in a movie. The movies are not real. You know what I mean? Guns don't kill people. People kill people, right? So we're looking at doing this program in August. Divine Mother put it within my heart to pull the women together, because as Elijah Muhammad said, a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And everybody else in every other ethnic group is doing something, but we are not doing anything. As a people of color, we're not doing anything. As the original people, we're not doing anything. We're just good enough to jump on social media, look at the latest trend, put on the latest makeup. Nothing wrong with being beautiful. Shoot, I'm looking good today. Nothing wrong with being beautiful, but it has to go beyond that. We have to start looking at how we're going to build this community. And we need our men to do it with us. We need our men to do that with us. When we fell, when the matriarchal society fell of Lemuria and Atlantis, then everything else fell by the wayside as well. So now there has to be a reemergence of the Divine Mother where we are accountable for each other. We have to be accountable for each other. Instead of looking at each other's enemies, we have to be accountable to each other. Please forgive me, y'all. This thing decided to reboot itself. 1 second, y'all. I'm sorry about that, y'all. So how do we now move forward as mothers? I don't have any children of my own, but I've mothered many. What suggestions can you give us as we move forward? Because we're saying as women, we have to come together. Mother put it within my heart that in August, at the same time, on the same day, we all, wherever we are in our communities, we have the same thought to raise the vibration of earth. And only by doing that can we now elevate her. The more people that become aware and conscious of self, then that helps to shift, because we've already shifted. It's just a matter of everything falling into place. As the original people, this is our time. This is our time to rise up. But as Elijah Muhammad said, a nation can rise no higher than its women. We need the women to now step into their rightful place as the mothers, as the divine mothers. What advice or what insight can you give the women that can help them now look to the next stage for themselves, where we act as a community and not as enemies?
One of the most powerful human beings on earth is the mother. When a mother advocates for her child, she is advocating for the whole society. If a mother says, my child is in danger at school, they are being bullied, that statement, just that statement alone, they are advocating for a safe school environment. They're advocating for good parenting. They're advocating for conflict resolution. They're advocating on behalf of the other child. What is going on in your home that you're behaving like that? And that's just one scenario of a mother advocating on behalf of her child. When mothers start to cry out on behalf of their children, they're crying out for the safety of the society, the stability of the society. They're crying out for opportunities within the society. They're crying out for some sort of help because they can't get it done themselves. They're crying out for intervention from the Most High, from the Creator, from Yahweh. They're crying out for a change and a positive change. So a mother crying out is not just the sound of her voice, but it is the sound of the nation dying. For when mothers start to cry out, what society has to hear is the wailing of the mother, literally screaming, our society is dying. Look, I am a mother and I'm crying out. I've lost my child. I've lost my husband because of someone, and my child went along. I am crying out, no more. Enough of this. Enough of the violence. Enough of the overspending. Enough of the debt. A mother is crying out saying there is no future. She's crying out that where's the hope?
You know, when you just
And
said when a
it's
mother
not
cries out.
neglecting the fathers.
Yes. When
It
you
is
just
not
said,
neglecting the fathers, because she's also crying out for the
yes.
fathers to come.
Oh my goodness. When you said when a mother cries out is a nation dying, that hit me pretty deep. When a mother cries out is a nation dying. Oh my goodness. Ladies, let me just repeat what Zion's daughter just said. When a mother cries out, it's a nation dying. We have not even begun to rebuild our nation yet, and it's dying. This dialogue is so important for us as mothers. Like I said, I'm not a physical mother, but I've mothered many. And every time I hear of a child being abused or put down, it really rocks my world, because I've educated, as a teacher, I've educated many, and see little ones strive and become greater than they could ever imagine, because I always say to them, there's nothing you can't do. And I always say hugs first. We don't know how that child's life is at home, but when they come to school, school is a home away from home. And the first thing I do in the mornings when my children came into the classroom is hugs, because we don't know if that child received a hug at home. A hug first, anything else after. This is so important, so important. So we're looking at for the women to come together in August. August 9th through 13th is when the Stargate opens to Sirius. And that's when we are propelled in the photon belt a little bit closer to home, because most of you who are in the conscious community would have heard of Earth separating from Tara. That was what you call the first explosion, right? Earth separated from Tara, and she got lost. She lowered her vibration to be here, and we came, some of us as star seeds, came here to help Tara, help Earth reconnect to Tara. And as we are in that shift, the shift to connect us again, she's connecting with her oversoul, which is Tara. And we are getting ready to propel even closer as the photon belt opens. We're getting ready to elevate even higher as that, sorry, not the photon belt, the Stargate opens. This is where it's necessary for us to let our voices as mothers, let our cries be heard. Let's sing our praises of our Creator around that time. And what the Divine Mother has put within me is that the women come together wherever you are on the globe. We come together on a specific time, on a specific day, to raise that vibration of Earth. And by raising the vibration, then we are letting our cries be heard, because we have to lift our nations. Wherever we are, we're one nation. We have to lift the vibration of Earth so that we can now begin to heal us. Because as mothers, if we're not healing, then what's the point? We have to begin that healing with each other as mothers. And when you begin the healing, then you become a better mother, a better friend, a better teacher. But back in the day, if I did something like I was saying, and I got home and I didn't do the right thing, my mother knew about it. If my mother didn't have something and the neighbor went into the city, she had it, she brought it to my mother. We were never hungry. There was always somebody in the community that had something. I'm growing vegetables here, and in my community, I practice what I preach. In my community, I grew collard greens, and I had more than enough for myself. I give my neighbors each a bunch of the collard greens. I didn't look for anything in return. I just shared with them, because sometimes they'll pass and they'll bring me some lemons, or they'll bring me some sweet potatoes or something. I am never hungry because they always look out for me. That's how we have to get back to each other. Each one, reach one, teach all. That's how we have to get back to building that community. And that's the only way forward. We can have as much knowledge as we want. If we just have the knowledge for us, then we only save you and not even you. But when you share that knowledge with everybody else, then you save an entire community. So we have to get back to that. Here, Zion's daughter is giving us some insight of how we can get back to building community, of looking out for our sons, of creating programs for our sons. You know, we're not excluding the daughters, but our sons have been left by the wayside, where we say, oh, that's your daughter, their son, that ain't got nothing to do with me, until something happened to your son. Then you want my empathy, you want my sympathy. But when it was the opposite, you see what I'm saying? We have to start correcting these children. If one is behaving bad on the street, then you speak to that child. And then the child continues to behave bad, somebody else speak to that child is going to realize, wait a minute here, what's going on? That child must recognize that they have many mothers. We have to return and get them sound go for return and get them. Return to the values that we grew up with, looking out for each other, taking care of the community. And that's what we call community building. People, that's the only way forward. As much knowledge as we have, and we're not building community, we are as dead. Because no man is an island. We have to start looking out for each other. And it starts with us, the mothers. The pressure's on us. We can have wayward sons because the mothers are not doing the job. This is not about the fathers. This is about the mothers. Where there are not decent women, you won't find a decent man. If every man comes up to you and you lewd and what's not, they're not going to respect you. But when a man comes to you, you put him in check. And another man comes to the sister and she put him in check. And it goes down that line. The man is going to say, wait a minute here. I can't get through none of these sisters. I got to fix myself. I got to get my act together. But if we, as the mothers, as women, are acting like hussies. I just saw a picture of this girl, what's her name? Lizzo. And I was mortified. I was mortified at all of her business. What she had for dinner, I can look and see, because there's no self-respect. How do we expect a man now to see her as valuable? She's breakable. So how are he going to see her as valuable? He wouldn't even look at her. She's got money, so he's going to go with her to use her, but he's not going to see her as worth for them. I don't care if it's entertainment. We are not entertainment. Look at the name, enter. Nobody can enter you without your permission. So we can look at ourselves as entertainment, because nobody can come to me with that kind of behavior. By the time they come to me, they get checked. They get checked. And I don't have to check them or curse them out. I just have to show them who I am. So Zion's daughter.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry I went off like that, but that was just how spirit was moving me.
That's how you feel. And we have to stop being ashamed of how we feel. There's too much political correctness to the point where your honest opinion about something is being stifled, and then you're losing out.
Yep.
Salient points, because you're not really listening politically correct. As we talk about mothers and getting back, I would say for me, and the vision that I would love to see come into fruition is the impartation of us understanding that we're preparing ourselves for the new phase we are entering in, not just as a country, but as celestial beings. Now, when you say these things, people get a little uncomfortable and they wonder, where are you going with this? But even the Most High, the Son of God, Jesus, Yeshua, did say, you are the light of the world. And if the light loses its light, you're no good for anything. Even when the salt loses its saltiness, you're the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. And right there, you're being told of your significance. If there's no electricity, we don't have electricity, let's just imagine. It's easy for me to do because I grew up without it. But if you've never grown up without electricity, you don't know what it is like to literally live with the dark. And if you light a candle or oil lamp, that source of light becomes a beacon. That's
Mm.
what you, if there is no salt in the food, I mean, your doctor might have said you can't have salt, and you're trying to get your palate adjusted to food without salt. But salt also serves the purpose of cleaning,
Yes.
cleansing, and healing. If you have a bad tooth, you can't get to the doctor. You don't have no Ambersol, you don't have anything like that, no oral gel, you don't have any cloves at home. And you have salt and warm
Mhm.
water, you gargle with it. So it has medicinal purposes. But if it doesn't have any flavor with it, what can it do? You're both the light and the salt on the earth.
Mm.
Those are powerful tools. But let's not even forget that
Mhm.
you are the source of life for another person. Whether you birthed that person, you adopted that person, you
Mhm.
fostered that person, or you have a mother-like figure in their life, you are
Yes.
birthing a new person. You are
Mhm.
imparting, you are imprinting on that person, because
Yes.
that's a human being, a small, a rising adult that you are raising. And you have to take that person through the stages of first being a baby. And
Yes.
in babyhood,
Yes.
you are cussing at that baby. You
Mhm.
telling the baby, get from around me. The
Mhm.
baby becomes a toddler, can't
Yeah.
stand you, get from in front of me. The toddler has now become a young man, or you still don't want them, just like the father. And these are things that people have heard, but let us be realistic. The manifestation of those words
Mhm.
is making us not have
Yeah.
peace today.
Well, Zion's daughter, we are coming up on the last minute in our broadcast. I want to say thank you so much. We can continue this next week. The people are loving it. I am loving this. These are the discussions and conversations we need to have as we move forward so we can build a better community and a better society. So folks, thank you all for watching. This is Aziza Sacred Wellspring of Sacred Sister Soul Talks TV with my guest Zion's daughter giving her insight on mother's sons. And she will be back next week, same time, and to continue this discussion. I want to say thank you guys and do have a